Shall we start then?
I think Jo's speaking, but she's muted.
I thought we'd start with if you can do your talk, and then it would be good to have an opportunity to ask you questions afterwards. I think there'll be quite a lot of questions from everybody. We want to get as much advice as we can from you. So so that's how I think the evening will go, and then maybe we can conclude by saying the grace together. Okay, so off you go.
Thanks for inviting us to share our experience and vision of acting out our Christian faith in creation care. At the moment, we are all overwhelmed by the COVID-19 pandemic, but the forthcoming crisis of economic recession, climate change, and biodiversity collapse will threaten the very existence of our civilization and the whole living planet. So we need to have a successful global rescue action in the next decade in order to save our common home. Can the church be the beacon of hope in the climate and ecological crisis? Now, caring for creation is part of our Christian faith. To live a life, care for God's world and its creature is part of our discipleship to Jesus Christ. At Stratford Methodist Church, we are making a commitment for a green recovery, for a better and sustainable future. As a church, we have been on a 20-year green journey to make creation care part of our mission. In 2000, we learned about the Eco Congregation program, and we registered for it in 2003. In the following 12 years, we managed to improve our understanding of our covenant with God and our responsibility to creation as His good stewards. For our achievement in reducing our carbon footprint, as well as taking care of our environment, we were given 3 Eco Congregation awards. When Eco Congregation Award was replaced by Eco Church program, and we registered for it in 2016. And we became the first Methodist church in the country given Eco Church Gold Award in 2019. Now, faced with all those crises coming, we should work even harder for a green recovery from the devastation of the COVID-19 pandemic for a just and sustainable future. So what exactly can the church do then?
So we believe, as Lim has already said, that creation care is a matter about Christianity, and we believe it should be part of every church's mission. We have found, as no doubt you have, that one of the best ways to mobilize the congregation to take on creation care is to follow the well-resourced Eco Church program. In completing the survey on worship and teaching, buildings, land, community, and global action and lifestyle, we've very simply identified the steps needed to reduce our carbon footprint of our church building. And we found that we've been encouraged and well-resourced to take action in the community and to contribute to the building of God's kingdom on earth. In order as a congregation to deepen our understanding on stewardship, we hold a number of Sunday services on these themes. We hold an annual Climate Sunday service, and a number of climate emergency themed services during the year. We also ensure that the ecological ethos finds its way into every aspect of the church's mission and life. Now, the examples I'm going to give you are obviously pre-COVID-19, but we hope that they will pick up again from September as part of our life mission. So, for example, our monthly Saturday brunch, which is extremely popular in our community. We get 90 to 100 people, local people, who come along once a month on a Saturday to that brunch, has a loaf basis. The food, as far as possible, is locally produced, organically grown, animal friendly, and fairly traded. We also ensure that our monthly Sunday church lunch is from time to time vegetarian. We organise lectures, we show films with environmental themes, and we have regular fair trade stalls at church. We also ensure that the curricula set for the children and the toddlers groups include eco-church themes. Now, crucial to keeping the eco-vision in focus, we have a green group at church, made up, I don't know, about 8 to 10 people, which meets to plan and share ideas regularly. The group has great influence within the church and beyond. Members of the Green Group take it in turns to write a monthly article, which is included in the church magazine and also is posted on our website. The Green Group makes sure that they keep on the church agenda by sending a report to every church council. They promote the Eco Church programme through our local Churches Together, a bit of a driving force to the Churches Together from our church, and also keep on banging the drum, really, the eco drum, with the South Warwickshire Circuit and the Birmingham District. And only last Saturday, as a result of the work that they do through Churches Together, the first Eco Chat on Zoom was held, at which there were 27 attendees from 4 different denominations in the town. We think that the Climate Sunday initiative, which I'm sure you've come across and are probably part of, started by CTBI, is a good way to help our church make a contribution to the success of the United Nations Climate Conference COP26 next November. We've signed up to this initiative, and we have suggested through the Eco Chat meeting last Saturday that we hold an ecumenical prayer vigil in November.
Now, of course, the primary commitment of an Eco Church is to take action to reduce the carbon footprint in the church building. Now, in the past, the main problem in terms of energy in our church building was a very, very inefficient gas heating system and a very poorly insulated building. If you just look at the gas consumption, in 2005, we actually used 220,000 kilowatt hour of gas. Now, we did try hard to reduce the gas consumption, but when you only have a very single big industrial boiler with a single loop of piping, it is very difficult to achieve it. And in 2014, when we have the refurbishment done, we introduced a number of the green measures to make sure now we have a much more efficient gas heating system. And we divide the building into 4 zones, each zone controlled by a thermostat. And we only provide heat according to the letting. We also replace all the windows with double glazed one. So as you can see, in the last 5 or 6 years, the average gas consumption is less than 70 megawatt hours. So it is a 70% reduction. Now, although our main building is still heated by gas boilers, but during the refurbishment, we have a new room built. And we took the opportunity to install a ground heat pump, which produced about 7 megawatt-hour heat to keep this room constant temperature throughout the year. Now, as it is underfloor heating, it was most welcomed by our Wesley Baby and Toddler group and all other groups in the winter time. Now, in terms of electricity use, we mainly use electricity for lighting and running essential equipment. Now, before the redevelopment, and we can only try to encourage people to turn off the light when it's not used, and also replace the incandescent light with a low energy light bulb. But during the refurbishment, we managed to rewire the whole building. And also all the light now is LED light. And in the corridor, in the toilet, it is controlled by the microwave sensor. Now, since we provide much better facility from the redevelopment, and the usage of the building increased tremendously. And also, now we have more equipment to run. So as you can see, even now, we provide better facility, and we still didn't use much more than before the redevelopment. And then, in order to make the building more user-friendly or more efficient, and we also managed to put up 36 solar panels, and it produced roughly about 9 megawatt-hour electricity every year. If you just look at 2020 electricity use, you can see the solar panel, the green one, will produce more than required between the month from April to September. Rest of the year, in fact, the use is much higher than what we can produce. Now, even in this kind of situation, without battery storage facility, we actually still managed to cut down about 26% of the usage from the national grid. More importantly is that apart from make the whole system more efficient, and in 2018, we changed to Good Energy, which is a 100% renewable energy company. So by doing that, both our gas and electricity used from the building have much less environmental impact to the environment. Now, in order to reduce the carbon footprint from using tap water, we also install a rainwater harvesting system. And by doing that, now we use about 70,000 liters of rainwater instead of tap water to flush the toilet. Financially, we didn't gain anything from this particular measure, but it is the most visible sign to show people how much we take care of the environment. So if we look at the carbon footprint of the building, if we just only use the amount of electricity and gas import from the national grid, you can see in 2005, before we start our journey on energy saving, at the time, our carbon footprint was about 40 ton emission a year. Since the redevelopment, as you can see, the carbon emission or the amount of energy import from the grid is less than 15 ton of carbon dioxide emission. But here you can see not only the amount of energy we use much reduced, but since now all our energy is from either our own generation, renewable energy, and also import from 100% renewable. So to us, working with the local environmental group is a very important part of our mission, because to us, we have to be with the community. For instance, in 2008, we co-organized the first Stratford Eco Fair. In that day, we have a lecture entitled "The Future, Green or Green?" And we managed to have a free workshop run by On Energy World Lecture, Christian A, and Transition Time. And we have 23 exhibitions by the environmental group and the green energy company. Very interesting to point out that it was after the Eco Fair, Transition Stratford was set up. Under that organization, they have done a lot of very good programs. Now, in 2019, again, in response to the IPCC appeal, we organized a Stratford Action Day. Once again, we managed to attract about 300 people to come. We also have a keynote speech from a research fellow from Oxford entitled "Climate Change, Why We Still Can Do Something About It." And we also have free workshops concerning local waste reduction, home energy saving, and make Stratford greener. And soon after the Action Day, the council of the town and the district and the county all declare climate emergency. More importantly is that since then, there is an organization called Stratford Climate Action. Now, we are working very closely with this organization, and they are very actively coordinate youth strike, school strike, and also now they are the local force to work with the council on their action plan. And local, within the church, we also consider we should do something with the local charity concerning environmental issues. And probably you know there is one called the Heart of England Forest. We consider planting trees and protecting forests is a very important step in reviving the environment, because it is the way to reduce the carbon and also restore the biodiversity. So this year, our church would start a program to raise money for this project. And so by the time we have Climate Sunday service on the 5th of September, it would be one of our contributions to the event. Now, campaign for climate justice, it is our faith in action. We support Christian Aid campaign on the Big Shift or Big Switch. And we organize a petition inside church to send it to local bank to ask them to stop their investment on the fossil fuel industry. And we also not only switch our church energy supplier to 100% renewable energy, we also encourage our own congregation to do the same. We are also want to show our concern of the poor sanitation in underdeveloped country. So 3 years ago, our congregation managed to raise £900 to train our toilets with 6 toilets in Africa through the TIA Fund. Now, protecting the tropical forest is very crucial for absorbing the carbon and protect the biodiversity. So during the lockdown last year, we still managed to raise £300 to support Green Christian Rainforest Fund, because it is so important to carry on the work as much as we can. Of course, we also support the campaign by the Joy Public Issue and on the divestment from the fossil fuel industry. We are particularly nice to notice now Methodist Church withdraw all their investment from that industry. And we are also very excited to see a new campaign, Climate Justice for All. It is a youth-led global campaign, and we would like to support their activity. So there are a lot of good campaigns we can support, so we can form a powerful climate emergency movement locally.
So I'm sure you can hear from what has been said that we believe that we have to do our bit, as it were, and that in order to avoid the devastation of our planet, we need to take both individual and global actions now. We believe global and national actions can only be fully achieved when individuals change their lifestyle and support new technologies and adopt a new economic system. We will continue to encourage our congregation to review their own personal carbon footprint and give ideas as to how they can do that. We'll continue to encourage those in positions to invest to consider investing in new green technologies and in companies that work towards a new low fossil fuel economy model. Oh, sorry, hang on. To those who are homeowners in our congregation, we'll continue to provide information about building insulation and installing solar panels, ground or air heat source pumps in their homes. And we'll continue to encourage our congregation to support environmental campaigns, engage with our local political leaders, and be part of the growing local community movement. We as a church have a dream of appointing a pioneer minister with the support of the district and the circuit, who will have the brief of establishing an eco-congregation. It's only in its first stages. The dream has now been shared in the circuit and the district, and we're hoping that it will soon begin to sprout and take hold. As a church, we've benefited greatly from carrying out both eco-congregation and eco-church programs in the last 20 years. We've now got a building which is flexible, comfortable, and attractive, and is widely, non-COVID times, widely used by our local community. In this last year, it's been the base for the food bank, who were restricted in their own base because they couldn't social distance in the building that they had. So they moved lock, stock and barrel into the church and have been working from there through this last year and a bit. The building is proving to have something of a prophetic role as well. In the individuals, as you heard from Lim, the local council, and a number of other churches have visited to get ideas and to seek information and to share their ideas, to get inspiration for their own particular circumstance. Friends, your church and ours are now part of a growing number of faith communities that are convinced that we are all being called to work for a just and sustainable future. We pray that God may widen our awareness and deepen our resolve and bless our endeavours.
Well, thank you very much. That was great. It's very encouraging to see that some of the things that you've done and some of the things that we're doing already to make us into an eco-congregation. Many of the things that you mentioned we've been part of. I can see that we've got a long way to go in terms of demonstrating our energy efficiency, looking at all your graphs and charts and things like that. But yeah, thank you very much. It's really good to hear. Shall we take questions now? Would anybody like to ask anything? Hang on a minute, I could just put you on gallery and then I can see. Would anybody? Go on, Lindsay.
I'm a little confused. Can you just define the difference between eco-church and eco-congregation?
Right. Eco-congregation started in 2000, and it has been run for quite a while. The way they run the program is to provide 13 modules. And so if you join in that program, and you have to go through different modules. And unfortunately, it didn't attract many churches to join in. So in 2016, and it was replaced by Eco Church. Now, Eco Church program is quite different in a way to the Eco Congregation, because that one, they just simply provide you a survey to start with. You just simply go through the survey to see where you are, how much you have done, how much you should do. And so it certainly have a very good support. And as you know, it is 5 years since it started. And now we have more than 3,000 churches join the Eco Church program. And they aim to reach 10% of the churches in 2-3 years' time. So to some extent, both are Christian ecumenical program for an environmental issue or the creation care.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to ask a question? Paul.
It sounds fantastic and just wonderful. I'd love to know, I mean, how much did that renovation of the church cost?
Okay. That whole refurbishment program was £1 million. We start to consider it in 2010, and we raised the money in 4 different ways. One is, of course, we can get some grant from the Methodist system. And also, we sold our church cottage, which raised quite a lot of money. And then we have to do a lot of fundraising event, and it raised probably about 1/4. And then the last one is a pine grant. So the total budget, we actually finished on time and on budget, and we pay back every single penny within 1 year.
Brilliant.
Since then, we benefit tremendously from our redevelopment, because now the letting income increased a lot. Before the redevelopment, the letting is about 26,000. Before the pandemic, is 42,000. And then our
rising.
And the energy bill before the redevelopment is about £8,000 to £9,000 a year. Now it's £5,000. But because we have income from both the solar panel and the ground heat pump, the energy expenditure is less than £3,000.
David.
I was interested in you saying that your use of rainwater didn't help you economically. Is that just because it was expensive? I mean, we looked at that with our refurbishment, and it did turn out to be really expensive to put it together. But once you got it, don't you gain from reduced water bills?
No, mainly because we have no water meter, and we pay for religious grant rate, which is quite low. So our treasurer didn't want to look into it. But as you can see, now we actually use less than 70,000 liter water less than before. So it's bound to have some saving, but I don't think we would make much a noise about it. But to us, it is the most inspiring thing when the people come into our building, use the toilet, and they all know it is flushed by rainwater, and they were impressed.
That's because of the color of it.
Can I ask about the applying for the Gold Eco Church Award? Because at the moment we've got a silver award.
Yeah.
And the process of doing that has been, filling in the questionnaires and working through that. What's the difference between getting a silver and getting a gold? What process do you have to do? Does somebody come and interrogate you?
Well, put it this way. When we first registered for the Eco Church program, we went through the survey, and we worked out how much we have done, how much can be done. And at the time, we reached gold standard in 2 out of the 5 already. And so we actually start to look into what thing we can do better. So once we identify that and we start to do more, I think what we found out in our situation is that the most difficult section for us is the personal lifestyle, because that one is not easy to assess and also not easy to impose on. It's really something I find it quite difficult. But the thing now we concentrate on now is to use our experience, work closely with other local environmental groups, and we now have been talking to different churches, not only in the Methodist, but also to other denominations. Seems to me it is another way we can help other churches to evolve. So the answer to how to get it go is really down to your own kind of assessment. But it's true that all other award, bronze or silver, once you submit it and they look at it, they will accept it. But gold, they would come. So they actually come to us to assess everything. It's the only difference.
It was very worrying though, Lim. We were more worried than we needed to be when they came.
Yes.
Because it did seem, Joe, as though it was going to be some sort of examination.
Mhm.
But and we were particularly concerned because we don't have much ground, you know,
Neither do
and
we.
that was an issue as well.
Yeah.
But they're realistic, and they realised that, and they gave us further ideas. I mean, they were in it with us, I felt, rather than it being an examination come the day.
Yeah, it's quite interesting about the ground because we hardly have much ground around the building. And so when we first submit for gold and we consult them, they said, since you haven't got much ground, you need to fill up the ground, the land part. And then when they came, we showed them around, we told them the story, and they were so impressed. They said, you should put it in. So we immediately put down what we managed to do, because when we had the refurbishment done, a very narrow strip of the land at the back of the building. And at the time, the architect think the only thing they should do is to turf it and then have a few trees. And when we present their plan to the congregation, and a lot of people were not happy, and they think we should have a proper garden. And so we actually let the people to submit idea, and by the end, people actually donate plant from their garden according to our requirement. And we even managed to get the local government to provide labor, because some of the young offenders have to do community work, and so they help us to do the hardcore of that land. And then now it provides a very, very nice little oasis, and people actually enjoy to sit there. And also, since we started, now we put up more birds nets, and also and we have a baby toddler group, and so we let them to take a corner to be their own corner, and they grow strawberry. So they are quite happy with it.
Esther.
Talk about having different users of the building in the community. How have you found sharing your eco values with them and having them on board? Have there been difficulties, for instance, with use of plastics or single-use plastics or recycling? Have people been on board? Do you have any advice for us?
Well, I think.
Oh, sorry, no, go on.
Audrey,
I was just going to say there's a lot of information displayed, and particularly in the room that is most hired, Lim has some of those graphs up, and there he replaces them every month to show what the monthly usage has been. So it's a living board, as it were, or every so often anyway. And so the message is declared all over the place in the building. The plaques are up, and there's a ticking machine that shows the usage of something or other. What is it? Is it electricity that's showing as well? There's plenty of display. We don't police plastic use in any way. It's more by example, I think. And we haven't had any confrontation in any way that I know of, Lim. Do you?
No. For instance, we are a fair trade church. So we have free refreshment bar, and we all have posters up there to make sure they respect the fair trade principle. And we expect them to use fair trade coffee or tea or whatever. And I think it's a very subtle way. Of course, we can do much better than that. At the moment, although we have some display of the literature or information, we plan to do more. And particularly now, a lot of people come into our building. They really want to know a bit more how we manage. So I think we can do a bit more in the future.
Frank.
Lim, an odd question perhaps. Are there any things that you regret about your redevelopment, or things that you would do differently if you could start again?
Yes. First of all, about the solar panel. We have a very tight budget. Although the whole budget is £1 million. But at the time, in fact, it took a lot of persuasion for the congregation to accept it. So all the green measures we put in, we have to be very, very careful. And so at the time, we only managed to set up 36 solar panels. So now the maximum production is only 9 megawatt hour a year. Now the size of our roof, in fact, can put up many more panels. So I think when I look back, I said, well, we just haven't got enough gut. But then it was a difficult time. But in that particular case, we were so lucky too, because we apply grant everywhere. At the time, our supplier is Scottish Power. And at the time, they have a super green grant to encourage a green project. So we make an application and we show them what we intend to do, solar panel, ground heat pump, blah, blah, blah. And they were very impressed. They only pick up one, is solar panel. They pay for the whole thing. So it's one of those things. If we actually manage to get them to pay for the whole thing at the beginning, we can have a much bigger solar panel system. And also at the time, it's quite expensive to have battery. And that's why I make a point about without battery at the moment, it's not sufficient enough. And we export more than 60% electricity back to the national grid. And then we have to import a lot in the winter and at night. Now, if you have the battery, we can do much better. And of course, if you really want to make it self-sufficient, what we have at the moment, we haven't got enough production power. So ideally, if we are going to have another go, we have to increase the solar panel area and have the storage facility like battery. Then we can be easily achieve what we want to have.
Paul.
Sorry, ask another.
No.
I mean, there are a lot of issues of social justice that confront our country and our church. And you mentioned food banks and you mentioned Christian aid. Do you find that picking Eco Church has meant that you've had to de-emphasize some other things and that this is a deliberate decision, you know, this is the most important thing and therefore this is what we're going to work on? Or have you been able to continue with the other social justice issues that exercise, no doubt, you as well as us?
In fact, on the contrary, social justice is always in our program. And that's why right from the beginning, we are not only save energy, we support fair trade church, and we support all those campaigns by Christian aid. So justice is always part of our program. So I couldn't see there are any contradiction in that. And particularly now, when we are talking about climate crisis, I think climate justice is really very important because in this country, we are the first one to increase the carbon dioxide emission. And we still have a very, very high living standard. That means we actually have very high carbon footprint per person. And then if you look at the suffering of the climate crisis now, need not to say in the future, are those poor countries. And that's why I think it is so important to see the young people now start to talk about climate justice for all. I think it's exactly the kind of thing we should support.
I'd agree with that, and I don't think there's any of the usual Justice Sundays that are missing from our programme. You know, we collect for JMA and Christian Aid is a big one. Fair Trade, as you say, MHA, Action for Children was decided which Sunday last night at Church Council. I think the sort of usual Methodist emphases are all there really, but this one doesn't overtake the others, but certainly is the main one.
Can I just ask quickly about Eco Circuit? Are you part of an Eco Circuit?
On the way.
Okay. How did you go about getting everyone together for that?
Well,
we've only been part of the new circuit for a year.
Yeah.
And so there are two people who are warriors in the circuit now, and one is Lim, and then there's another gentleman at one of our village chapels, and the two of them together conspire for goodness, and they're pushing and pushing and pushing and not despairing in the circuit for the circuit to find its way, and it's on the way to being an eco circuit. And initially, Lim, it is about numbers, isn't it?
Yes, yes. Well, I think,
but obviously they want to influence as well.
Yeah, I think it all depends on how many churches in the circuit really want to have a go. Because in our old circuit, in Stratford and Isham circuit, at the time, both Stratford Church and Isham Church were doing a lot in Eco Congregation program. So at that time, in fact, 4 of us from these 2 churches, and we gang up together. And then when Mark Bolton came free, and we actually make the circuit agree to register for Eco Congregation. Unfortunately, it was dissolved before we really achieved any award. And since we joined the new one, the South Warwickshire one, and we found ourselves with a minority in terms of environmental issue or creation care, but we still try. Hopefully, there would be a breakthrough, because what happened is that before the lockdown, and we have some sort of letter or survey asked the local churches in the circuit to fill, and we have very, very poor response. And now we have a new superintendent, and in fact, this morning I received a draft of a so-called eco circuit plan, and I'm very encouraged because it looks like some of the circuit stewards start to take it up, and they are planning big things. So I'm very, very encouraged by that. And so, yeah, the thing is coming up.
You have persuaded them, Lim, and you perhaps don't know, but money is about to be ring-fenced in the circuit finances for purely eco endeavours.
Yeah, that is very encouraging. Yeah, because I also work with Mark Bolton and others for Eco District, for the Birmingham District. And again, it's not an easy thing. It's more than 130 odd churches. And when we send out the survey, we only get something like 17 or 20 respond. So it's not an easy thing, but I think we have to keep on trying. And the most encouraging thing we have, as Audrey mentioned, is that for years, we have been talking to our neighbors, the Holy Trinity, the Baptist, and whatever, about eco congregation. We didn't get anywhere at all. And lately, suddenly we have URC, you have Holy Trinity, we have the Quaker, and they all decide to go for eco church program. And that's why now we gang up together and to start this ecumenical eco chat. And as Audrey said, it was last Saturday, the very first time we just sent out invitation, and we have 27 turn up. And it's a good start, but it's far from what it should be, because there should be 17 churches. We only have 4 churches join in. So I think, yeah, there is a lot of things can be done, but just take a little bit effort, I think. But I have never experienced so exciting about this issue in recent years, because for years, it is one of the issues not many people want to know. In fact, now more and more people realize it is an issue. And more importantly, is they actually realize as a Christian, it's part of our faith, and we should do something about it. That's why I think it's very exciting.
Thank you. Well, oh, Esther, do you want to ask something?
I just wonder what goals you have for the future. I'm sure it's all ongoing, and if you have any particular timescales in mind for goals.
Well, the battery's been mentioned.
Yeah.
And you can hear Lim's character coming through. And so the battery is mentioned at each meeting of our committee. And this is part of the way Lim works. He doesn't let things go, and he persists, and it happens. And so, I mean, our finances, like yours, I'm sure, have taken a real knock this year. But that battery will happen eventually. So that's a goal, but I couldn't give you a time scale on that one. It'll take us a year or two to recover, I suppose. The notion of having a pioneer, I'm leaving it next year, and we've decided as a church to look at dividing the concern into 3 parts: into the congregation, the building and a new church plant, an eco congregation set up by a pioneer. So we're looking to have somebody to care for the congregation, some sort of pastor, minister to care for the congregation, to employ somebody to run the building, because as with many congregations, we're getting that bit older, and so we look 5 years ahead and think, not sure we're going to be wanting to change light bulbs, be changing light bulbs and so on 5 years hence. And the third thing, to ride the wave of interest, particularly among young people, and look to establish a church plant, specifically a Christian eco church. So that's where we are at the moment, and much will depend upon availability of ministry and the circuit's backing. We've got that, but you know what it's like when it comes to stationing. That's the plan. So part of that could be in place by September 2022, and hopefully most of it by the year after.
Yeah, I think we all have a dream.
I know, I think that's a reality, that one, on its way. What else have we got, Lim?
Well, I think more I think about it, in terms of energy saving, we still have a lot to do, because the government have set up some sort of deadline. By 2030, all the heating is not by gas anymore. Now, we still have a very, very nice gas heating system. So sooner or later, and we have to adapt to a new technology. And so that is something we have to deal with, but it's a practical one. But more importantly is what Audrey said. We really want to spread out the good news, and we have to do things differently. And we have to try to have connection with the young people. You know, in Stratford, they have school strike, they have youth strike, but our congregation are all oldies. And we didn't really have a young family in our church at all. Probably you are more lucky than us. So I think how to work with the youngster, inspired by them and building something different, and that proposed eco congregation probably is the way we can achieve it. If we can attract the young people, work with them.
Well, thank you, Lim and Audrey. That's absolutely amazing. So inspirational. And I think that, Audrey, you're very lucky to have Lim in your congregation. His enthusiasm shines through.
And ability.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing with us. That was really, it's really good to hear from other churches who are doing the same kind of things as us, or are that little bit further ahead than us. So it's really inspirational to hear what you've got to say, and we really appreciate you giving up your time to come and talk to us. Shall we? Oh, I just want to check. Kate says I should check that everyone's happy to be on the recording. Is that okay? Yeah, good. Okay. Shall we finish with the grace? Shall we unmute ourselves? Sorry, I'm losing my voice, so I sound a bit croaky, but shall we unmute ourselves and we say the grace together? May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ
And the
love
love
of God
and
the
the
fellowship of the Holy Spirit
Be
be
with
with us all
evermore.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you very much indeed. I hope one day you can come to see us and we can go to see you.
Oh, we love it. We look forward to that.
For the meeting, I was telling Joe, Monday evening and I will be in Ashmolean.
You'll be in the Ashmolean.
For the exhibition. And we thought we can try to see you, And then we were told it's impossible. Your building is our barn. So hopefully later we can see you.
Another day.
Yeah. You're in Oxford on Monday.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be in touch with you. Maybe we can meet up for a coffee.
Oh yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right.
Bye.
Okay.
Lovely to meet you all.
Bye.